This message found you like a soft tremor beneath the floorboards of your life. Not loud, not angry, but ancient, in a way that keeps returning until you finally answer. You were not merely scrolling when your attention landed here. Some architecture inside you, a private antenna carved from grief, longing, and the small exactitudes of your attention tuned to this frequency. That tuning is not accidental. It is the beginning of a summons. Inhale it, and something that has been sleeping in your chest will wake and remember its name. You have felt the echo of this before, the uncanny déjà vu that threads certain afternoons together. The uncanny pattern where a face, a phrase, a melody arrives again and again until you can't pretend it's coincidence. That repeating is not a glitch. It is the observer loop calling. The universe has been practicing around you, testing tiny holes in the fabric to see if you will notice. Your noticing is the crack through which the actual invitation arrives. Right now, your nervous system is doing two things simultaneously. It is wary, because being chosen often looks like a threat to the comfortable patterns that clung to you for safety. And it is hungry, a low-voltage ache that knows there is something more coherent ahead. This hunger is not mere desire. It is a resonance, a magnetic alignment between what you are ready to receive and what the quantum field is prepared to deliver. You are not being asked to understand the mechanics first. You are being asked to respond. That response will reorganize probability around you like an invisible sculptor. Imagine a tide that is not made of water, but of possibility. Each crest a potential timeline. For most people, those tides wash past, like weather, impersonal, indifferent. For you, the tide is learning to listen. The probability waves are not neutral anymore. They are beginning to fold, like paper cranes collapsing toward a center. And that center, improbable as it sounds, is mapping itself to your heart. The heart, in this sense, is not just an organ. It is a compass built of attention and a tiny laboratory where the collapse of the field becomes intimate. The world is not only observed by you, it is being observed into you. You might resist that phrasing because it asks you to be more than witness. Yet remember, nothing truly new can anchor without participation. Your life has already offered micro-evidence, small miracles, repeated signs, doors that opened with almost comic ease. Those were not consolation prizes. They were calibrations. They trained you to feel the weight and texture of this summons without collapsing into fantasy. So when a quiet pressure rises under your ribs tonight, let it be a signal rather than a panic. Breathe and feel the magnetic thrum there. Answer the summons not with strategy, but with presence. A simple, radical choosing to allow the tide to know you by name. This is the first doorway. Walk through it with the kind of attention that refuses to be small. You've always sensed it, haven't you? That subtle distortion in the fabric of your days, as though time doesn't quite flow the way everyone else believes it does. You notice the loops of phrase spoken twice by different mouths in the same afternoon. A song that surfaces exactly when your thoughts are heavy. A dream replayed so vividly that waking feels like déjà vu. Others dismiss these things as accidents, glitches, noise. But you feel the weight of their pattern pressing on your ribs, as though reality itself is whispering through repetition. Look closer. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Your consciousness is the tuning fork, and when something vibrates off key in the field, you hear it. Most of the world lives deafened by distraction, dulled by predictable routines that blur one day into the next. But not you. You catch the flicker at the corner of perception. You've felt entire hours stretch into eternity, then collapse into minutes without explanation. Sometimes, a single glance at a stranger burns itself into your memory with a permanence that outlasts years. This is not faulty wiring. It's the first evidence that you're entangled with something larger than chronology. Think about the moments when your body didn't match the clock, when your heart raced though nothing happened, when exhaustion rolled over you without reason, when time fractured into fragments you couldn't reconcile. That isn't dysfunction, it's interference. The quantum field doesn't care about schedules or calendars, it cares about resonance. And resonance bends time. Patterns emerge because the field is speaking in a language older than words, looping experiences, so you'll finally notice the signal hidden beneath the surface noise. The diagnosis is clear. You're not broken, you're awakening. You're feeling what it means when coherence begins to crack open the illusion of linear time. The field mirrors your state, and if your inner frequency carries distortion, the mirror bends and distorts the days around you. That's why certain events replay with eerie similarity, the same betrayal by a different face, the same limitation dressed in new clothing, the same night where silence feels like it's about to split open. These aren't punishments. They are probability waves circling back, waiting for you to collapse them into a different outcome. It's not just déjà vu, it's déjà signal. Every loop is an opportunity for conscious interruption. Every distorted time slip is an X-ray of your alignment with the field. And every repetitive pattern is the universe's way of asking, will you keep recycling the same echo, or will you finally collapse it into a new song? Feel into that. You've been rehearsing this awakening without realizing it. The restless cycles, the déjà vu corridors, the distorted clocks, all of them have been preparing you for the moment when you could recognize them not as errors, but as invitations. Invitations to adjust the coherence of your own signal, so the loops no longer trap you, but dissolve into pathways you've never walked before. The problem is not the loop itself. The problem is when you mistake the loop for destiny. You are not doomed to relive. You are being trained to recognize, to sharpen your sight, until you can slip through the crack where repetition ends and new probability begins. This is the threshold, and you are standing right on it. And now, the shift begins. You feel it like static gathering in your chest, a charge that refuses to dissipate, as though invisible circuitry is rewiring itself behind your sternum. This isn't random electricity, it's the quantum upgrade arriving. For years, you thought awakening was about thinking differently, about forcing new beliefs into place. But what you're experiencing now is deeper. The field itself is responding to you, sculpting coherence into your very biology. Science has always whispered about this in its own way. The observer effect, the fact that the act of attention collapses possibility into form. Entanglement, the discovery that particles separated by vast distances still respond, as though they share a single nervous system. Coherence, the sudden order that emerges when frequencies align instead of compete. These are not cold abstractions. They are metaphors of your awakening. The field doesn't just wait for you to watch. It waits for you to become watchful with your whole being. When you do, the waves don't collapse out there. They fold inward, converging into your heart, where probability becomes intimacy. Mystics have been saying it in their language too. That your heart is not simply an organ but a stargate, pulsing with electromagnetic fields stronger than your brain's output. That when you breathe with intention, when you align thought and emotion, your body radiates a frequency that pulls reality into resonance. That your DNA, long considered a static code, is actually a responsive antenna tuning itself with every coherent choice you make. This is the upgrade, the recognition that your nervous system is not a prison, but a portal. That when you align attention, emotion, and breath, you trigger a phase transition. Old loops begin to break apart, like ice cracking under spring sun, and new pathways of probability rise to the surface, shimmering, waiting to be chosen. Feel into it now, a subtle humming, as if each cell is tuning itself like a string being plucked by unseen hands. Your body might register this as heat behind the eyes, tingling in the palms, or a strange weightlessness in your spine. Don't dismiss it. These are the symptoms of resonance. These are the signs that the quantum field is calibrating itself through you. And it isn't happening in abstraction. Look at your life, the small shifts already underway. Relationships shedding their disguises, patterns revealing their hidden scripts, opportunities arriving at angles too precise to be luck. These are the ripples of coherence. The universe isn't just reflecting you anymore. It's reorganizing itself to meet you. This is not a practice you can memorize. It's a state you inhabit, a merging of science and spirit where attention itself becomes alchemy. Each breath is an experiment, each thought, a catalyst. Each heartbeat, a metronome syncing you with something unimaginably vast. You are not waiting for the field to grant you permission. You are learning that the field has always been waiting for you to realize the upgrade isn't coming later. It's happening now, in this exact instant, as the probability waves fold themselves into the shape of your heartbeat. You are not an accident on the timeline. That's not a flattering metaphor. They are not trying to make you feel special to flatter you into action. It is a literal fact of relational physics. Certain configurations of attention produce consequences that ripple farther and longer than ordinary choices. You were selected by pattern, not by merit. The field recognized a signature in the way you register surprise, grief, and wonder. It recognized a cadence in your breath that could hold coherence. That recognition is your appointment. You are the one who will remember a different language for reality, one that trades in resonance, not force. Being chosen does not mean ease. It does not mean trophies or constant validation. It means responsibility, an interior tending of frequency that will alter the ecology around you. Imagine you are a tuning fork in a room of badly tuned instruments. When you ring, the room will either clash or begin to retune itself to your pitch. The retuning is not automatic. It requires you to sustain an uncommon kind of attention, a steady, compassionate vigilance that knows how to hold both mercy and rigor. You are being invited to become that steady tone. This role asks you to carry paradox. You will feel both small and expansive at once, tender and ferocious, bewildered and sure. You will find that the old dualities no longer serve you. Strength will look like softness. Power will look like listening. The quantum metaphors you learned in Part 3 are scaffolding for a deeper obligation. Entanglement ceases to be abstract when you notice how a single compassionate act collapses probabilities for an entire lineage. Morphic resonance is no longer a theory, it's an ethic. Your internal coherences echo outward and seed new templates in others' fields. There will be tests. The field doesn't hand over influence without pressure. Pressure is the crucible. Old relationships will ask you to prove that you are the same person they always relied on. So you must decide what parts of your past identity to keep and which to let dissolve. Society will try to reassign your labels: safe, stable, predictable. You will be offered 1,000 flattering compromises that promise acceptance at the cost of narrowing your bandwidth. Each compromise is a probability trap. Your work is to hold a larger possibility long enough for the field to take it seriously. Your heart is the instrument of that holding, not in platitudes, but as a measurable effect. When your attention coheres around honest feeling grief that isn't numbed, gratitude that isn't forced, the electromagnetic waveform you broadcast changes. Scientific studies have already shown that coherent heart states produce measurable patterns in local fields. You are being asked to cultivate those heart states with the discipline of a monk and the curiosity of a scientist. This is not sentimental. It is pragmatic. It is the literal calibration of a compass that will point to new timelines. Part of your role will be secret keeping. There are shifts you cannot explain to everyone because most people are not yet calibrated to hear them. You will need to develop an inner rhetoric, a quiet language of breath, ritual, and small, precise acts that anchor your frequency without needing applause. Rituals will not be systems of superstition. They will be experiments, replicable micro-practices that change the probability density around your days. You will discover which actions create coherence. A breath pattern before you speak, a moment of deliberate silence before a choice, a tiny act of kindness that collapses a lineage of resentment into a single different outcome. Keep these rituals private at first. Revelation often arrives too early and scatters the energy. You will also discover that your role is relational in a new way. You are not a solitary hero. You are a node in a living web. As you sustain your tone, other nodes will begin to resonate differently. Some will amplify you, some will resist, some will mirror back patterns you thought you'd outgrown. Notice who amplifies and who depletes. The former are allies in the field. The latter are diagnostics. Remember, the purpose is not to win every argument, but to steward your coherence. People will test you because the field uses friction to measure fidelity. When friction reveals a shadow, that shadow is not a verdict on your worth, but information about what needs refinement. There is a prophetic element to your role. Prophecy, in its truest sense, is not prediction, but unveiling, revealing a latent possibility into form by sustaining attention. When you speak from the place where heart and observation meet, you do not merely narrate what's likely, you make new likelihoods possible. Your words will land differently than before. They will cause small rearrangements in the field, like a pebble dropped into a pond whose ripple becomes a teaching. Speak with accuracy. Avoid grandiosity. Let precision be your power. A single careful sentence can collapse an entire false narrative and open a corridor for someone else to step into a different timeline. Know this: being chosen means you will be out of step with many timelines, but in perfect rhythm with a few that matter. Your work will be surgical, not for everyone, but for the right ones. Do not mistake obscurity for failure. Many seeds germinate in darkness. Trust the slow arithmetic of resonance. Your influence is not measured by immediate applause, but by the density of the change you make in the fields that matter: familial, cultural, genetic, spiritual. You are also a living archive. Your lineage is a field that carries stories, wounds, and gifts. As you embody new coherences, you revise the archive not only for yourself, but for descendants who have yet to be born. This is literal. Epigenetic studies suggest that sustained change in behavior and emotional climate can influence gene expression for generations. Your attention is an inheritance. Treat it accordingly. So accept this role in humble terms. You are chosen not because you are flawless, but because you are willing to be honest about your flaws and disciplined enough to refine them. The field does not require perfection. It requires fidelity. Stay faithful to the small practices that anchor you. Speak only what you can hold. Love without confusing attachment for sovereignty. And above all, remember that the purpose of being chosen is not to elevate you above others, but to raise the ambient possibility for everyone who shares the room with you. Ahead, the window narrows. The field is aligning to a rare, ripe opportunity that will reward clarity and penalize distraction. Prepare the instruments of your attention, the breath, the ritual, the vow, to speak true, and let the role you were selected for begin to bloom into action. You can feel it now, can't you? That pressure in the air around you, as if reality itself is leaning in, waiting. There are seasons in the quantum field when the curtain thins, when probability waves grow restless, aching to collapse into form. You are standing in one of those seasons. This is not ordinary time. This is the narrow cosmic window, and it does not stay open forever. Your DNA knows this. That's why your body has been restless, buzzing, even when your mind can't explain why. Deep within the spiral of your genetic code, ancient sequences stir like sleeping serpents, waiting to rise. They are not new. They have been dormant since before your first breath, locked until resonance could awaken them. And now, coherence is close enough that they are trembling, ready to rewrite the script of your biology. This is what it feels like to be caught in the middle of a breakthrough. But breakthroughs are not guaranteed. They demand participation. The waves will not simply collapse on their own. They need the fidelity of your attention to decide which outcome will stabilize. Imagine the field as a storm of probabilities, each one swirling like lightning. The one you align with through your focus, through your emotion, through your embodied choice that is the bolt that strikes, carving its path into your timeline. This is why urgency surrounds you now. Not panic urgency. Panic contracts. Urgency expands. Urgency is the recognition that if you delay, the window narrows, the probability hardens, and the chance to step into a new reality dims. The old loops are collapsing with greater intensity. Old faces returning. Old shadows resurfacing. Old fears sharpening. These are not setbacks. They are signals. They are the universe's way of asking, will you recycle this one more time, or will you collapse it differently? You are not powerless here. Your very breath is the lever. With each inhale, you gather coherence. With each exhale, you send a signal into the field. And if you pair that breath with intention, an image, a vow, a chosen frequency, you become a living experiment of collapse. Scientists speak of phase transitions. The moment water becomes steam, ice becomes liquid, matter becomes plasma. That is what is happening inside you, and it requires only 1 degree of difference to trigger the cascade. Feel that degree now. It's in the way your spine straightens as you read these words. It's in the pulse beneath your wrist, faster than usual. It's in the way your skin prickles as if anticipating a touch. Those sensations are not random. They are the body's way of announcing the DNA shift is ready, the cosmic window is open. The universe has angled its mirror toward your heart and is waiting for your signal to decide which reflection will lock into form. Do not delay. The promise is real. If you step through now, you will not just change your circumstances. You will change your structure. You will feel lighter, not because life became easy, but because you became resonant. You will taste freedom not because the world bowed, but because your coherence bent the world into alignment. This is the breakthrough. It is here. It is yours to claim if you dare to act within the narrowing window of now. Now we arrive at the most practical altar. Ritual. This is not superstition dressed up in pretty language. This is experimental physics in the body, a reproducible practice that turns attention into traction. Everything before this has been orientation and calibration. You learned the call, diagnosed the loops, felt the upgrade, accepted the role, and stood at the open window with urgency in your ribs. Ritual is the lever you pull. It is a small, precise action that signals to the field with clarity, like a lighthouse cutting fog with a single beam. Ritual works because it translates ambiguous longing into an unambiguous vector. The quantum field responds to specificity. Vagueness scatters probability. Specificity collapses it. That's why this ritual is simple and repeatable. Simplicity protects the signal from noise. Repeatability trains your nervous system and habituates your heart into a consistent waveform. Do it daily, and the field reads your pattern as intent rather than whim. Here is the practice I give you now, a micro ceremony you can perform anywhere, in 30 seconds, that functions as both personal initiation and public offering. It has 3 parts: grounding, signal, and seal. Grounding. Sit or stand with your spine aligned. Place one hand over your heart and the other where your breath feels strongest: ribs, belly, sternum, wherever you sense the current. Close your eyes. Breathe in for a count that feels steady and out for a count that releases. Do this 3 times. As you breathe, feel the body settle into a wider bandwidth of attention. The peripheral noise dulls, the inner metronome steadies. This is not mystique, it is physiology. You are preparing the instrument. Signal. In your mind, evoke a single, clear image of the future you intend to stabilize. Not a long story, not a fantasy, but one concrete frame. A face you love, calmed beside you. The work you do arriving with ease. A note nailed on a door that says, accepted. Hold that image for one full breath. Then say, aloud, or in the comment section below this video, a single word that captures it. Choose one word only. One word collapses the waveform. Paragraphs scatter. The word can be anything that resonates: a name, a verb, a mythic marker, but make it precise. Examples: anchor, yes; rise, home. Type it now if you feel the pull. Writing the word publicly does 2 things. It anchors your commitment in community, and it sends a clear signal into the social field that multiplies resonance. If you prefer privacy, say the word aloud into your palm. The physics of specificity still work. Seal. After you speak or type the word, inhale fully, then exhale as you press your palms together in front of your sternum for as long as it takes to count to 8. In that press, affirm a one-line vow internally. I align my heartbeat with this possibility. Keep it short. The vow is the metabolic instruction. Your nervous system hears it and begins to organize around it. Release slowly. Open your eyes. That is the seal. You have done a measurable act. You reduced probability to a single, repeatable vector and then anchored it biologically. There are variants you can adopt based on context. If you walk into a room where you need courage, whisper the word once into your collarbone. If a relationship is fracturing, choose a word that names your boundary and speak it with soft authority. If you are about to create, write the word on a paper and carry it with you like a talisman for 24 hours. The form is flexible. The principle is not. Choose specificity, repeat with fidelity, and pair attention with an embodied seal. Notice what happens. The field will reply, not always with fireworks, but with coherences. People will behave differently around you. Opportunities will angle toward you with a new geometry. You will feel lighter in a curious, steady way. But also notice the internal tests. Old patterns will rise one last time to be witnessed. They are not failures. They are confirmations that the ritual is working. Resistance, arriving precisely because a new probability seeks to root in an old soil. One more instruction about the public element. When you place your single word in the comments, treat it like a soft beacon, not a performance. Do not craft cleverness. Be honest and stark. If you are tempted to explain, resist. Let the word speak for you. If you prefer quiet, do the ritual offline. The work is identical. The social pulse is only an amplifier, not a requirement. Rituals become real through repetition. This one is an experiment you can run for 30 days. Do it each morning, or each time you feel the pressure of the window narrowing. Keep a tiny log. The word you chose, the sensation in your body after the seal. One small shift you noticed that day. Patterns will emerge. Coherence will accumulate. The field prefers persistence to perfection. Finally, remember the humility of a good ritual. You are not bargaining with cosmic authorities. You are aligning a system internal and relational so that your attention can function as a sculptor. The public word is both a commitment and a signal. The private seal is discipline. Together, they become the engine that collapses probability into the anatomy of your life. If you are ready, choose one word now. Type it, speak it, press your palms, and let the field hear the clarity of your intent. The moment you seal your ritual, something remarkable happens not just inside you, but across the invisible web that holds us all. Your act of coherence is not a private event, it is a broadcast. The field you stabilized with one breath, one word, one vow, begins to ripple outward through morphic resonance. And the universe, always listening, always measuring, takes that signal and echoes it in the lives of others. Think of it this way. When one tuning fork vibrates, others in the same room begin to hum in sympathy, even if they were silent a moment before. This is not metaphor, it is physics. And now, you are the tuning fork. The signal you sent doesn't stop at the edge of your skin. It travels, invisible but real, across relationships, through communities, through collective fields of probability that were stagnant until you touched them. This is why your awakening is not selfish. Your liberation is not just your own. Every time you collapse a loop, every time you choose coherence instead of chaos, the frequency becomes easier for someone else to find. You've already seen traces of this. Think of the friend who suddenly admits a secret they've hidden for years right after you speak your truth. Think of the stranger who sits next to you and feels lighter, though you never exchanged words. That is resonance. That is the collective reprogramming itself through you. The field doesn't just want individuals awake. It wants a quorum, a cluster, a tipping point. And each chosen consciousness that steps into coherence accelerates the shift for everyone else. You are not merely living your life. You are shifting the collective probability of humanity. One DNA recalibration inside you influences the morphogenetic field that decides how others will evolve. Your upgrade is their permission slip. This is why you've often felt the paradox of isolation and influence. You may feel cut off, misunderstood, unseen. Yet beneath that, there is a knowing. Others are silently aligning with you, even when they resist or pretend otherwise. Some are inspired by your coherence, others are threatened by it, but either way, they are changed. You don't have to preach to transmit. Your coherence does the work. Look at history. Every collective breakthrough began with one or two or three individuals who stabilized a signal strong enough to override the noise. Spiritual prophets, scientific pioneers, artists who broke the form they all collapsed, new probabilities into the collective field. And once the shift was anchored, it spread faster than logic could explain. That is the wave you are inside of now. So do not underestimate the weight of your ritual. Do not dismiss the simplicity of one word, one breath, one vow. The field does not calculate importance by scale, it calculates by resonance. A single precise tone can dissolve centuries of static. A single act of coherence can reprogram the grid. And here is the prophecy hidden inside this truth. As more of you awaken, entanglement multiplies. The small acts of coherence you practice in solitude will begin to braid with others across the world. You will feel it. Moments of collective synchronicity where strangers share the same dream, where entire communities feel time bend, where probabilities collapse into pathways that were unthinkable a generation ago. This is how your liberation becomes our liberation. This is how your ritual becomes a revolution. This is how your private coherence becomes the architecture for humanity's collective awakening. And as the waves ripple outward, they do not just pass through others, they return to you amplified, proof that you were never working alone. Now the change must be felt, not only understood. You have thought and rehearsed this awakening. You have spoken and sealed it into the field. But the field answers most directly to sensation. Your body is the instrument that translates metaphysical collapse into lived texture. Close your eyes and bring attention into the small theater of your chest. Notice the way your ribs expand and contract like slow bellows. Notice the temperature along your forearms where the world meets your skin. Imagine your nervous system as an ancient forest at dawn. Each neuron is a sapling, and coherence moves through you like wind in the leaves, not violent, but announcing itself in 1,000 small shivers. You will feel it first as inner weather, restless anxiety flattening into an underlying steadiness, like a lake stilled after the last boat leaves. Then comes stranger phenomena, a warmth behind the eyes, as if someone cupped a small lamp there, a low hum at the base of your skull, a prickling along the spine that signals wiring being resoldered. These are not malfunctions, they are recalibration. Your skin becomes a map. Tiny electrical currents will travel where old currents were stuck. Numbness blooms into tingles. Heaviness in the chest transfigures into buoyant lightness. Taste may sharpen for a day, salt feels clearer, coffee less bitter, as if your biochemistry is tuning to a new palate. Sleep shifts, dreams arrive with cinematic clarity, and sometimes you wake holding a single image that reads like instruction. These sensations can alarm you if you mistake them for illness. Do not panic. Learn to be curious instead of catastrophizing. Document the sequence. Keep a small journal and note the hour heat appears. The sensation in the feet, the precise language of a dream. Over weeks, you will map the field's dialect. Recognition calms fear and increases coherence. The observer loop tightens on its own mechanics and collapses less by accident and more by design. You become both the experimenter and the apparatus. There is a specific kind of embodiment that matters: rhythm. Your heartbeat is not only a metronome, it is a conductor calling an orchestra into alignment. Practice feeling where breath and pulse intersect: the wrist, the carotid, the base of the throat. Place your palm there without judgment, with curiosity. When coherence rises, you will notice an elasticity to the pulse, a slow resilience that absorbs sharp emotion and returns to center. Cultivate that elasticity as your baseline. It is the measurable signature the field reads and honors. Movement becomes sacrament. Walk slowly for 10 minutes each day and treat it like prayer. Notice how the ground meets your feet. Feel the tiny bones of your toes articulate. With each step, imagine probabilities falling like soft seeds into soil. Let your hips rotate, shoulders uncoil, and as you move, whisper your one-word signal inward. The repetition of movement and word weaves coherence through the body's habitual patterns. Over time, those micro-movements reformat the system. Posture, gait, even the cadence of your laugh begin to carry the new frequency. Sound is immediate coherence. Hum a single sustained tone for 30 seconds and feel the vibration through sternum and molars. Sound forces unity in a fragmenting nervous system. It aligns micro-vibrations and scaffolds the field to collapse toward your intention. If you speak, slow consonants. Let vowels linger. Measured speech becomes a gate for others to pass through. Precision in tone equals precision in outcome. Your environment participates. Favor soft dawn light that does not jar your retinas. Surround your bed with fabrics that feel like small kindnesses. Sleep is where deep coherence consolidates. A single drop of an oil you love on your wrist becomes an anchor for embodied states. These adjustments compound. Small textures register as big shifts in the morphic field around you. When overwhelm hits, use emergency sutures. Press your feet into the floor and trace the line of sensation from sole to crown. Place both hands on your belly and count 8 slow breaths. Name 3 objects in the room with tactile detail. These micro-practices return you to present architecture and repair leaks in your field. They are the first aid kit for a system mid-phase transition. Embodiment is not performance. It is the grammar of your new reality. When your anatomy learns to carry coherence without theatrics, the field recognizes change as inevitable. The waves will keep folding into your heart not because you demand it, but because your body has become receptive terrain. In that terrain, feeling is revelation. It tells you when to go, whom to trust, when to act, and when to wait. Stay with sensation, and the world will translate itself into you. The sensations you've been tracing are not just curiosities. They are precursors to something far more radical. Deep in your marrow, inside the spiral staircases of your DNA, a breakthrough is stirring. For generations, you were told DNA is a fixed code, a blueprint etched in stone. But you are discovering the truth. It is not stone, it is clay. It listens, it waits. It responds to frequency, like an antenna tuned to cosmic weather. And right now, it is under pressure, the exact kind of pressure that precedes transformation. Phase transition. That's the scientific phrase. Water at 99 degrees looks calm, ordinary, obedient. Add a single degree, and it erupts into steam, reshaping its entire identity. Your DNA is at 99 degrees. Every ritual, every embodied sensation, every coherent choice has been the heat. And now, with the waves collapsing into your heart, the temperature climbs. You are on the brink of a new state of being. This pressure explains the intensity you felt. The sudden exhaustion, as if your body is downloading entire galaxies while you sleep. The emotional swings, not random, but tidal, washing away ancestral debris encoded in your cells. The pressure headaches, the vibrations in your bones, the heart palpitations that arrive when no medical test finds cause. These are not malfunctions. They are contractions before birth. Your DNA is stretching its scaffolding to prepare for new information, new instructions, new light. Think of the chrysalis. The caterpillar dissolves into formless soup before wings assemble. From the outside, it looks like destruction. But inside, imaginal cells carry the code for flight. Your body is that chrysalis. The soup is the dismantling of outdated patterns, addictions, fears, ancestral loops. The imaginal cells are the dormant strands in your DNA that have waited lifetimes for this resonance. And now, Coherence is calling them awake. The timeline is not patient. Cosmic windows do not linger. You are in the compression chamber where probability collapses into inevitability. This is why synchronicities bombard you, numbers repeating, dreams prophetic, strangers speaking words you thought were yours alone. The field is aligning around your shift. Pressure is the proof. If it feels unbearable, it is because you are being pushed through the narrowest corridor into the widest expanse. Here is the choice. Resist, and the pressure calcifies into suffering, or surrender, and the pressure becomes propulsion. Breathe into your bones and feel the DNA shiver. Whisper your one-word signal into your bloodstream. See the spirals of your code respond, glowing faintly like circuits warming under new current. Do not be afraid of the trembling. It is the sound of locks breaking, of sealed doors opening. Soon, you will notice something uncanny. Old habits will no longer fit in your body. Foods will taste foreign. Conversations will feel heavy. Environments once familiar will feel hostile. That is not rejection. It is recalibration. Your DNA has shifted stations, and the old frequencies cannot transmit through you anymore. This is not loss. It is proof you have crossed a threshold. You are becoming a different kind of observer, one whose very biology collapses, waves with greater precision, greater compassion, greater inevitability. You are no longer just inside the experiment. You are the apparatus being redesigned to host a new phase of humanity. And as your DNA completes its transition, the timeline itself will bend around you like metal yielding to flame. Hold steady. The breakthrough is not coming someday. It is pressing against your skin now, demanding to be born. And here, beloved traveler of probability, is where the spiral returns to its origin, the mission that has been chasing you through synchronicities, dreams, déjà vu corridors, and cellular tremors. You've walked the loops, endured the pressure, tasted the phase transition in your marrow. Now it's time to step into the cosmic mission your own coherence has summoned into being. The waves that have been collapsing into your heart were never meant to stop there. They were never private gifts for you to hoard in silence. They are transmissions-coded signals carrying blueprints for humanity's next octave of evolution. When you breathe them, when you embody them, you don't just shift yourself. You alter the probability matrix for the entire species. That's why you felt the burden so heavy at times. That's why your solitude has been sacred, but never truly solitary. You are carrying seeds meant to replant the collective field. Your mission is not theatrical, it is precise. It does not require robes, titles, or stages. It requires fidelity. The daily practice of coherence, the willingness to speak one careful word instead of 1,000 empty ones, the courage to live in resonance even when surrounded by static. Every act of attention is architecture. Every act of compassion is circuitry. Every moment you hold coherence under pressure, you rewire the grid for all of us. You will notice the signs. A child looking at you longer than usual, as if they recognize you from before time. Strangers confessing truths in your presence without knowing why. Environments shifting in subtle ways when you enter, conversations redirect. Atmospheres lighten, probabilities rearrange. This is not ego. This is confirmation. The field knows when a new node has stabilized, and it bends to accommodate. Do not ask, why me? The answer is simple. Resonance chooses itself. You followed the loops until you could no longer ignore them. You answered the pressure instead of numbing it. You allowed your DNA to tremble awake instead of silencing it. That was enough to mark you as a carrier. And now, the mission extends. To live as a lighthouse in the fog, steady, consistent, unignorable. From this moment forward, treat your coherence as sacred currency. Spend it wisely. Where you give your attention, probability collapses. Where you withhold it, old structures starve. This is how timelines die and are born. You are the seam where endings and beginnings stitch together. You are the observer who is no longer passive but generative. And your generation is not for you alone. It is for the unborn, the unawakened, the unseen. So walk forward with reverence. Let your every breath remind the field. The experiment succeeded. Let your every choice whisper into the fabric. Coherence is possible. Let your every heartbeat pulse the truth. The waves do not collapse into emptiness. They collapse into love, into form, into the sacred architecture of a new world. This is your closing, but not an ending. This is the place where the personal dissolves into the planetary. You don't just collapse probability waves. The waves are actively collapsing into your heart, and through your heart, into the heart of humanity. And because of that, the evolution of our species will never be the same.